Okay, lads, so next Tuesday week, you're going to give an in-class lesson delivery. You've got a lesson. You should have got a lesson by now, right? So, for example, Aidan, can you tell me what your lesson is?
The importance of pre-use inspection.
Okay, so the importance of pre-use inspection. So you're going to do a delivery in the classroom up to 25 minutes on that subject, right? Now, it doesn't have to be 25 minutes. I'd like to see somewhere between 15 and 25 minutes. Over 15 minutes would be good, okay? If you get 20 minutes, fantastic. But please don't take it too close to 25 minutes because you're going kind of over time then. No, you won't fail for going over time, but I want to be able to mark you on everything that you have to be marked on. One of the things you're going to be marked on is your pace and your timing. Okay? So you're going to be marked on the quality of your presentation. And what's important to know about that is, I'm not going to be marking you on the quality of your PowerPoint presentation. Right? If we use training aids, and I want you to use training aids, it's great. And I'll be able to put down marks for training aids. But what I'm looking for is your ability to give a presentation, a training presentation, which means you want to be standing up and you want to be talking very similar to what I'm doing now. So what I'm doing now is I'm giving a presentation to you guys. And if you notice, I'm what's called open posture. I'm making a certain amount of eye contact with both of you. I'm using my body to communicate with you as well. In other words, I'm not just standing here with my arms folded, talking stiffly. I'm nice and relaxed, and I'm speaking clearly, and I'm speaking in a tone that I believe is easy to understand. What does that mean? I'm not speaking too fast. I'm not speaking too loud. I'm not speaking too low. Okay? So that's the essence of what I'm looking for. The other thing that will be useful as well for you guys for your preparation, and I'll give you some more tips for your preparation. Oh, this is just the first video, and the reason I'm making this video is just to give you a heads up on what the most important thing is. The most important thing is that you enjoy giving the presentation, right? And what's going to help you there is if you do your preparation. So you've been given a subject. What's your subject, Pat?
Differences between lead-acid battery and lithium-ion battery maintenance.
Okay. That's a nice one, because I haven't got a clue about that. That's not exactly true. It's a good idea as well if you can make a joke on it. So I do know something about the maintenance, taking care of the battery. But that's what you're going to be focusing on, right? And the word maintenance there is important. You don't have to have all the science about the batteries. You're going to focus in on what does the operator need to know about how to take care of the battery. Okay? And you've got 15 to 20 minutes to explain the most important things about that. They're going to be your learning objectives. So when you're delivering your short presentation, you want to have your introduction. You want to have something called your link back to an earlier lesson. And when you do your link back to an earlier lesson, pick a lesson that's relevant or related, if you can. Then you're going to introduce your lesson. And the introduction to your lesson sometimes is, this is an important lesson for you because. Tell people why it's an important lesson. Then you're going to do what's called your learning objectives, which is at the end of this lesson, you're going to be able to explain to me what you have to do to take care of a lead-acid battery and a lithium-ion battery. You're going to be able to tell me what the difference is between both batteries. You're going to be telling me maybe what the most important hazards are about those batteries that I have to look out for. You might have to tell me about the PPE that you have to wear, for example, when you're doing a certain amount of maintenance on at least the lead-acid battery anyway. You get the gist, right? Your learning objectives are going to be the most important things that your trainees need to know. And you put 4 or 5 learning objectives up on a slide. Everything flows from the learning objectives. What that means is when you're making your other slides, you're going to teach people with your other slides about those learning objectives. so that at the very end, when you ask them questions about the learning objectives, they're able to answer them. And it's really, really important to have some questions in your presentation as well. So 2 things. When you're delivering a training presentation, you want to invite questions. In other words, space, stop, pause. Do you have any questions about that? And you also want to ask people questions. And you want to involve people as much as you can. And sometimes you can use training aids to do that as well. And I recommend training aids if you can use them. A training aid, for example, your PowerPoint is a training aid, so you're going to get some marks for that. If you have a short video that you can put into your PowerPoint, but I don't recommend more than a minute or so. If there's a pointing stick that can be used, or a model, so for example, I have a model of a forklift here. No, it's seen better days. It's in bits, right? But somebody that I was training printed this on a 3D printer that they have at home. Yeah, they printed the pallets as well. Yeah, and they made a presentation using this as a training aid, and it was really cool because they went to some trouble, and you could see that they went to some trouble, and they were interested in it themselves. That's another thing. When you do your presentation, even if the subject matter leaves you cold, figure out how to become passionate about it, get interested in it. So that's you're up here. When you're doing a presentation, you're selling a message. Okay? So you do your lesson title, you do your course aim if you want, you do your link back, you do your introduction, and you do your lesson objectives. Then you put your lessons up. In other words, you tell people what you're going to tell them. And at the very end, then you do what's called a summary conclusion. So you tell people what you told them, and that's when you might come in then and ask your questions. And the best thing about using a PowerPoint presentation is you do your lesson objectives, and they're up there, and you point to them, and you just call them out. You'll have to read them out. You'll have to read some of the PowerPoint. And at the very end, you can put your questions up there, and you can just have your questions, and then you can ask people questions. But the important thing about using a PowerPoint as a training tool is, yeah, it's okay. You can read something out, but then you have to turn around, face your audience, and you have to be communicating with your audience. You're only using a PowerPoint as a prompt. Is this making sense? So you use it as a prompt. That means don't get stuck in the standing here reading loads of text. If you have a couple of pictures there for yourself and your trainees, it's going to help. But you want a prompt. In other words, you have a couple of lines. You can read a couple of lines, but then you talk around, you turn around, you expand on it, and you're talking to people. You're making the eye contact. You're actively using your body to speak. And most importantly, at times, you're listening. And listening is really important as well. So, have you any questions on that, Pat?
I suppose just, as I was just saying, look, I haven't been using computers a lot. I had the basics, like be a bit slow now setting up the PowerPoint presentation, but I get around it, it's not part of it. That's my biggest fear, just be confident, I suppose, and it's something getting it just cracking, getting open PowerPoint and just getting used to the layout, the format, I suppose.
Yeah. We're going to do some work on that here in the classroom. We're going to do some work on producing a PowerPoint. So, you do have a laptop, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
So you bring in the laptop, right? Have you a laptop? Yeah. No, we have a spare if we need it. But I'm going to show you how to put a PowerPoint presentation together, right? And it's an important skill because you are going to use PowerPoint presentations when you're training people, okay? And we do have the time. On this first week, we do have the time for that. Now, for the lads at home that are watching this recording, if you've used PowerPoint before, great. You're re-registered. That means you've all done training before. But if you have any issues with PowerPoint presentation, any difficulties, any questions about it, just give me a shout, give me a phone call, or send me an email, and I'll help you as much as I can. But the PowerPoint it's important. But we can do it, all right?
Yeah.
Any questions, Aidan? Okay, so this in summary, what this presentation is about is your in-class presentation. You have your subject. Do a little bit of research on your subject. Figure out what's the most important thing you want your trainees to know based on a 15 to 20 minute talk. A 15 to 20 minute talk is a short talk, and then it can be a very long talk as well, right? It can be a very long talk if you don't have the content, right? So we're going to get a chance to rehearse it, and we're going to work on it here in the classroom. I recommend at home, take your time, put a PowerPoint together, and see, how you get 15 to 20 minutes. I would say 20 minutes is the optimum. You'd like to get 20 minutes out of the presentation. And I'm going to be marking it in the classroom, but it is going to be monitored. What I mean by that is it's going to be live streamed to the RTI TV, and they're going to monitor it. I don't believe anyone is going to be looking at it and marking it. I'm going to be marking it. However, it still has to be decent, because anyone can come in and monitor that anytime. But we'll have to have a rehearsal, we'll say, on the Monday, because the lads that are coming in for the re-reg will have to have a chance to do this. So you guys are definitely going to have a couple of rehearsals within the next few days. But we're going to get to the lessons as well. So that's just a short bit about your presentations. Any questions on it? Hopefully this video is a help. You can touch back in. But again, if it's not sufficient information, you have my phone number, 086 9572 197, and you can call me and have a chat with me or send me an email. I'm going to be emailing you this evening, Pat. I'll be emailing you this evening, Aidan. I'll be emailing you guys this evening with your lessons and your portal access information. And my phone number is on my email address. I'll be sending you some materials as well. Okay?